Hey there. How is your February? I'm laughing because hasn't it been an interesting beginning to 2020? Talk about clear vision, huh? 2020. Isn't it interesting also, they wanted to point out from the quantum that when we all decide to just go for it and really leap through some of our evolutionary pieces, that sometimes we can be sitting there going, universe, a little less at one time would be nice here. So January, you might have found in all of that big truth discovery that it might have come on a little bit too strong sometimes, and you were thinking, did I really want to see this? Did I really want to know that? Or maybe you ran into some different detours or roadblocks regarding that, where you had really wanted to get to the heart of the matter with some things, and it didn't necessarily reveal itself for you, and so maybe you went a little quiet in January and decided to look further, look deeper, go within, a little bit more excavating going on. And then February. So where's this going to take us in February? Towards the end of January, I started asking, of course, quantum, this is a lot for people. This is a lot of discovery while feeling like rocks are getting thrown at you. This might be a little bit of exploring with buckets of water being dumped over your head, where you're thinking, wait a minute, I'm following my soul's, designs and guidance, and why am I being led into these arenas which seem so tough and hard and challenging? So many of you have reported like you really felt like you'd gone after your heart pursuits and followed a lot of what your soul had been guiding, and then found yourself in the middle of some big busting out zones, right? Well, a lot of people are asking for this. So for those that have been buried or hidden, or there has been a lot of deception or corruption around them, if they're asking for a change and they're looking to do things a little differently, and you happen to be around in the circumference of that happening, yeah, it could feel a bit combustible. So February, what's February coming in from the quantum? So they are talking about one very specific thing for February for us, and that is forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Now, they're really wanting to say that this is not that wussy kind of surrender, be a victim to something thing that often gets taken as forgiveness, and that's why people have such resistance a lot of times. The word even is it's saying, why do I have to forgive that? Why do I have to forgive that? That they're just plain old harsh, mean, cruel, whatever going on in the systems, in humans, in collectives, in communities. Why am I forgiving that? Okay, so they said observation is very different than acceptance. In other words, you can observe something openly, compassionately, with understanding, kind of stepping into somebody else's shoes to see why is it that they're doing what they're doing? How are they acting like that? Because the people that are suffering the most are also hurting others the most. So February is definitely around forgiveness of others in all of that struggling and channeling. We've all been there. We've all been in places where we thought after the fact, man, what if I had responded differently? What if I heard that person differently? What if I had asked the question differently? Maybe I could be standing in a different sort of connection with the person. Maybe things would have gotten resolved sooner. Maybe things wouldn't have felt like they went on a shelf somewhere, back into a closet far, far, far away. So people in February, humans here on the earth plane, are a lot of going through this sense of, how do I unbury this pattern? How do I get in touch with, I see the big truth, now what? Now what am I going to do about it? So being about this forgiveness piece and forgiving others, and just for past stuff, for maybe stuff they're going to do in the future even, but primarily, even bigger than that, they're saying is forgiveness of self. Because if we're sitting in a judgy place, condemning, degrading, chomping at somebody else's reign, we're really being just the same as they are. It's just in a different fashion. So we're hurting them, we're not helping them. Because if we aren't being understanding and compassionate and having empathy for the fact that, hey, if they're hurting that many people, they must be busting hurt inside of themselves. And none of that, they must experience great harm as children in order to be doing what they're doing. So for February being around forgiveness and forgiving, just looking at it again, observation is not the same as acceptance. We don't have to accept that people are going to hurt others. We don't have to accept standing there not doing anything about it. But in the observation, if we turn away and ignore it or deny that it's happening or say, I can't even handle that, I'm not going to give it any attention, Yes, we have that choice, but as a collective, as a humanity, we have to get on this train together. We have to figure out a way to allow the oneness that already is. So what does that entail? That means that none of us really move all the way forward towards bliss if we've got people suffering so deeply. And so February, being again around forgiveness piece. So what does this mean for self-forgiveness? That is where you may be holding yourself in a pattern even of berating yourself, condemning yourself, degrading yourself, saying, how can you be so behind? How can you be doing this again? How come you're still dealing with this? How come there are the same situations cropping up, the same exchanges, the same connections, the same lack of understanding, empathy, compassion, love, light, etc. All right, so where are we going to go with this in February with forgiveness piece? So every time you see yourself judging another person, that's online, social media, somebody you don't know, somebody you do know, and you're considering whatever on their life, or thinking, yeah, that'll never work, or there they go, pie in the sky notion again, or whatever the judgy statements or thoughts that are flying through your mind at somebody else, quick, jump back into a state of forgiveness towards yourself, because we do need to forgive ourselves for any places where we're judging, because we aren't going to move out of judgment thinking we can all of a sudden undo it by judging, by continuing the judgment. So we have to get into that place of forgiving ourselves for being that harsh, for being that mean, especially to ourselves. Any place where you're holding yourself in a lot of judgment. It is time, February is time to dump it off and forgive yourself for holding so much garbage against yourself, so much harshness and meanness and cruelty. Good sign of whether you're being harsh to yourself is if you're truly caring for yourself by what you're putting in your mouth, by what you're putting in your mind. Because those in the quantum regularly say, you know what, drugs, alcohol, pot, pills, anything that we're doing that we're projecting our power onto, that's a form of self-punishment. It's really removing ourselves from further connection from our essential selves, which are all lit up and very vital, very vibrant, and very powerful. So just consider, sift it around, let it kind of pool back and forth through you. What does that mean to forgive myself? Anyways, where am I holding myself so harshly? Where am I being mean to myself? And a really good way to begin is just listening to your thoughts that you direct at yourselves from the moment you wake up in the morning. Usually in the first couple hours, people are not really that kind to themselves of their day. And then that ripples out onto other people as well, because humans have this tendency to not feel necessarily that great inside, and then they start looking for a place to dump it on somebody else. Oh, it was that person in traffic. That person cut me off. I got there and that person didn't hold the door open for me, or I held the door open and they didn't say thank you. I got in and all my boss did was tell me everything I was doing wrong. Nothing to support and encourage me and have my back on anything. That's what can often occur. So jump back into yourself, jump back out with your leaping, remove and uncreate and delete and cancel as many of those thoughts that you can get in touch with having to do with where you're holding such hardness against yourself. That's February for you, my friends. See what you can do, because here's the thing that they talk about in quantum. The softer and gentler and more loving eye that you can have on yourself, that you're holding yourself in a place of gentleness and kindness and giving, the faster that you will have that eye on everything else in the world. Happy February, my friends. This is Jeannie with Blaha. Take a walk with your angels. Enjoythings.com. Feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel or share this video on. And then don't forget, I always have specials going on, and one is the Wings Up Club, which you can find on my Take a Walk with Your Angels site. All right, take care. Love you. Take a wonderful view of yourself this February and see if it doesn't transmit on over to others. One last thing. When you are directing a field of energy at somebody and you are judging them, or you're feeling like, gosh, you know, I can feel that I'm just like wrong, bad, all of these things that give it the tone that takes it out of the isness, and you put it into a dark way, switch it around as fast as you can and instead say, you know what, I'm going to direct something else instead. Because if we are directing that kind of energy at somebody, we're not helping them. We're not helping. There will be no help arriving to that person to help them get empowered. The best thing we can do is send the compassion over, send the light, send the peace, send empathy even. You will be amazed. You might even be shocked at how situations at the grocery store, at wherever you're traveling, traffic, you could be walking down the street and suddenly something shifts completely because you sent different energy to it than that person is terrible, or look what they're doing, they're awful. And you just added mucky muck to awfulness instead of, you know what, I'm going to just send them light, see what happens. I'm just going to send them a little bit of extra love today. They're obviously in a lot of pain and suffering. The most mean people that you'll ever encounter on this planet are in the most amount of pain. They just are holding themselves in a lot of unforgiveness and a sense of they can't be forgiven even. So give it a go. See what happens. Love you lots and take care.